I stood in our living room, my phone trembling in my hand as I watched his face drain of all color. "Rachel, what are you doing?" he started, but I cut him off by turning the screen toward him, where screenshot after screenshot of their conversation glowed like evidence in a courtroom, each message more cruel than the last. "Fat cow thinks she's so smart with her little marketing job." And another that read, "She actually believes I'm at these client dinners." But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Rachel. I'm 32 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had the perfect life as a marketing director at a tech startup, married to Daniel for 7 years, living in our dream suburban home where we were that couple everyone envied, or so I believed. Daniel worked in finance, always impeccably dressed, always charming at parties, and I used to feel proud when other women noticed him, secure in the knowledge that he came home to me. The signs were there, I suppose, as late nights became later. His phone, once carelessly left around, suddenly sprouted a passcode, and business trips multiplied. But I trusted him completely because, after all, we'd built this life together from nothing, survived his law school debt, my father's death, 2 miscarriages, and we were supposed to be unbreakable. 3 weeks ago, everything shattered when a simple notification appeared on his tablet that he'd left on the kitchen counter while showering. A message preview from someone saved as Mike from gym that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Tell the cow you have another client dinner." My blood went cold because the cow was what he called me, to her. I should have confronted him immediately, but something made me wait. Maybe I was in shock, maybe I needed to know exactly how deep this betrayal went. So I did what any woman in 2025 would do, and became a digital detective. Remembering his tablet was still logged into his cloud backup, synced with his phone, and years of marriage meant I knew his passwords, his patterns, his digital footprint. What I found over the next 3 weeks would destroy everything I thought I knew about my husband, my marriage, and myself, but it would also lead me to discover a strength I never knew I had, and eventually, to a love more real than anything I'd experienced before. Looking back now, the digital breadcrumbs were everywhere, scattered across our shared life like evidence I was too blind to see, starting with his sudden interest in gym selfies when he'd never cared about fitness before, posting workout photos at odd hours, always careful to crop out backgrounds, and I actually praised him for getting healthier, encouraged his new routine, even bought him new workout clothes for Christmas. Then came the notification settings, where suddenly every app on his phone went silent. No more pings during dinner, no more preview messages on the lock screen. And when I asked about it, he said he was trying to be more present with me, to focus on our marriage, and I felt guilty for even questioning such a thoughtful gesture. The location sharing mysteriously stopped working, always showing location not available when he said he was at the office late. But he explained it as poor signal in the financial district, battery saving mode, technical glitches that made perfect sense when wrapped in his confident explanations and sealed with a kiss on my forehead. His social media behavior shifted too, where he used to barely post anything. Suddenly there were cryptic quotes about living your truth and life is too short for regrets, posts that garnered heart reactions from accounts I didn't recognize, particularly one profile with just initials AM, who seemed to like everything within minutes of posting. The credit card statements started arriving electronically only, no more paper copies. And when I mentioned it, he said he was going paperless for the environment, taking control of our finances so I could focus on my demanding job, always framing his secrecy as consideration for my well-being. Our shared calendar became a maze of vague entries like client meeting or networking event, never with specific names or locations, and when I'd ask how it went, he'd give just enough detail to sound believable but never enough to verify, masterfully walking that line between transparency and obscurity. Even our intimate moments changed, where he'd suddenly have new preferences, suggest things we'd never explored in 7 years, and when I wondered aloud where these ideas came from, he'd say he'd been reading articles about keeping marriage exciting, wanting to surprise me, make me happy. The weekend trips for work multiplied, always to cities within driving distance, always returning with generic hotel toiletries, and exhausted from back-to-back meetings, and I'd welcome him home with dinner and sympathy, never questioning why these regional clients required overnight stays, or why he couldn't take me along just once. Every excuse made sense in isolation, but together they painted a picture I was too trusting, too in love, or maybe just too afraid to see. That night 3 weeks ago, after seeing the preview from Mike from Gym, I sat on our bathroom floor with his tablet, my hands shaking as I opened his cloud backup, knowing that deleted messages lived forever in the digital world, and what I found made me physically sick. Conversation after conversation with someone named Amanda, saved in his phone as various male contacts to throw me off the trail. The messages went back 8 months, starting professionally enough with what seemed like work discussions, but quickly evolving into something that made my stomach churn, not just because of the affair itself, but because of how they talked about me, how they laughed at me, how I was nothing more than a joke between them. "The cow actually made me a special dinner for our anniversary," one message read. "Acted like she was on MasterChef or something. Pathetic, really." And her response was equally cruel. "Did you have to pretend to enjoy it, poor baby? At least you get to have real food with me tomorrow." I scrolled through months of mockery, each message a dagger to my heart. She bought lingerie today, trying to be sexy, almost felt bad for her. And Rachel thinks I'm at a client dinner again. These investment banking stories really work on her simple mind, and the worst one that made me run to the toilet. Sometimes I look at her sleeping and wonder how I ended up with someone so bland. Thank God I have you to remind me what passion feels like. They shared photos too, not just of themselves, but screenshots of my social media posts with cruel commentary. My LinkedIn promotion announcement captioned with, "Look at her pretending to be important." My Mother's Day tribute dismissed as performative family values from someone who can't even keep her husband interested. Even my workout progress photos mocked with, "Too little, too late, that ship has sailed." The timestamp showed their cruelest exchange happened during my father's funeral last year. While I was giving the eulogy, he was texting her. Finally, a legitimate excuse to not touch her for a few days. Grief is a great mood killer. And she responded with laughing emojis and, "You're terrible, but I love it." I sat there for hours, screenshotting everything with mechanical precision, my tears drying as something harder crystallized inside me. Because this wasn't just infidelity. This was systematic cruelty, deliberate humiliation, and the kind of betrayal that transforms grief into rage, and rage into cold, calculated determination. By dawn, I had uploaded everything to my own cloud storage, backed up in 3 different places, hundreds of screenshots organized by date and level of cruelty, and as the sun rose over our perfect suburban home, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't confront him yet, wouldn't give him the satisfaction of my tears, or the opportunity to gaslight me into doubt. Instead, I would gather every piece of digital evidence, learn everything about Amanda, document every lie, every cruel word, every financial transaction, and when I finally revealed what I knew, it would be on my terms, with such overwhelming proof that there would be no escape, no excuses, only consequences. The next 3 weeks became my masterclass in digital espionage, where every morning I'd kiss Daniel goodbye with the same smile I'd worn for 7 years, pack his lunch with little notes saying, "Thinking of you," and the moment his car left the driveway, I'd transform into someone I didn't recognize, someone fueled by purpose and armed with technology. I started with Amanda's social media profiles, using a fake account I created specifically for reconnaissance, and discovered she worked at his firm, the pretty paralegal from the 3rd floor he'd mentioned once or twice in passing, 26 years old, recently graduated from law school, and apparently thought stealing husbands was a valid career move. Her Instagram told a story she probably didn't intend to share, tagged locations matching Daniel's business trips, photos of expensive dinners posted on nights he claimed to be eating takeout at the office, a Cartier bracelet appearing on her wrist 2 days after a mysterious $3,400 charge on our credit card he said was client entertainment expenses. I installed a tracking app on his car under the guise of safety features, watching his real-time location contradict every lie, seeing him parked at her apartment complex during late meetings, at hotels during client emergencies, even at a jewelry store the day before my birthday when he gave me a gift card because he didn't have time to shop properly. The financial investigation revealed the real scope of betrayal, where I discovered a separate credit card I never knew existed, Statements showing romantic dinners, weekend getaways, lingerie purchases from stores I'd never been to, even payments to a fertility clinic that made my blood run cold, remembering my own miscarriages and his supposed grief. I hired a digital forensics expert under the pretense of suspected corporate espionage, paying cash from my personal account, and what he recovered from Daniel's devices was beyond comprehension. Deleted photos, encrypted messaging apps, even a shared calendar where they planned their rendezvous around my schedule, noting when I had yoga, book club, or visits to my mother. Through it all, I maintained perfect composure at home, cooking his favorite meals, asking about his day with feigned interest, even initiating intimacy to avoid suspicion, all while documenting every lie, every timestamp, every digital footprint that proved not just the affair, but the deliberate, calculated cruelty of it all. I consulted a divorce attorney secretly, learning about asset protection, custody laws even though we had no children, and most importantly, how digital evidence could be used in court, making sure every screenshot was legally obtained, every tracking app within marital property rights, building an ironclad case that would leave him with nothing. The hardest part was staying silent when friends asked if everything was okay, when his mother called to plan our anniversary party, when he'd kiss my forehead and say "love you" out of habit, knowing that behind those words were months of messages calling me pathetic, boring, and disposable. But I held on to my secret power, knowing that soon, very soon, Daniel would learn exactly what happens when you underestimate the woman you married, when you mistake kindness for weakness, and when you forget that in the digital age, your secrets are only as safe as your weakest password. The universe seemed to conspire in my favor as I positioned each piece of my plan, starting with an unexpected ally in the form of Melissa, Daniel's secretary, who approached me at a company holiday party with knowing eyes and a whispered, "If you ever need anything, Rachel, anything at all, just ask." Her hand squeezing mine with meaning I didn't fully understand until later. Turns out Melissa had been covering for Daniel's absences for months, forced to lie to me on the phone while watching him leave with Amanda, her own marriage destroyed by infidelity years ago. And when I finally confided in her, she became my inside source, forwarding me his real calendar, warning me when they planned meetings, even taking photos of them leaving together. I expanded my digital net carefully, creating a secondary email account, new cloud storage systems, even purchasing a cheap laptop with cash that I kept at my mother's house, building an entire shadow infrastructure where I compiled evidence, organized timelines, and prepared for multiple contingencies, always staying one step ahead of discovery. The close calls started multiplying as my investigation deepened, like when Daniel came home unexpectedly during lunch to find me at his computer. But I'd prepared for this, quickly pulling up a recipe website, claiming I was planning a special dinner, watching his face relax as he kissed my cheek and grabbed his forgotten file, never knowing his banking passwords were already copied to my secure drive. Another night, he almost caught me scrolling through recovered messages on my phone, but I'd practiced the swift switch to my meditation app, breathing deeply as if centering myself, and he actually praised me for taking stress management seriously, completely oblivious to the volcanic rage I was managing with each calculated breath. I started making strategic moves in our social circle, casually mentioning to his best friend's wife about seeing him at restaurants when he was supposedly working late, planting seeds of doubt that would bloom later, creating a network of witnesses who would remember these conversations when the truth exploded into daylight. The fertility clinic discovery required special handling, so I made an appointment under the guise of seeking counseling for our previous losses, and the receptionist, recognizing my name, almost slipped by saying, "Oh, you're switching from Dr. Morrison?" Revealing that Amanda had been using my married name for her appointments, a detail so grotesque it took every ounce of control not to vomit in their pristine waiting room. I synchronized my reveal with precision timing, scheduling meetings with our financial advisor to review retirement plans, actually documenting asset transfers, consulting with realtors about investment properties, actually preparing for rapid sale of our home, even researching apartments near my office, each move disguised as normal married couple planning. The final piece fell into place when I discovered their planned weekend getaway to a resort 2 hours away, booked under his name with my credit card, scheduled during my supposed work conference that I'd actually canceled weeks ago, and I knew this would be my moment, my stage for the performance of a lifetime. Everything was ready. Lawyers retained, evidence backed up in multiple locations, financial protections in place, emotional support system activated but unaware. And as I kissed Daniel goodbye that Friday morning, watching him struggle with his suitcase full of lies, I smiled knowing that by sunset, his carefully constructed double life would crumble, and he would finally understand that the woman he'd mocked and betrayed had been playing chess while he was playing checkers. I arrived at the resort before them, using the reservation details I'd extracted from his email, checking in with my credit card that had paid for their romantic getaway, telling the desk clerk I was surprising my husband, and she smiled conspiratorially as she upgraded me to the honeymoon suite they'd booked, complete with champagne and rose petals I'd soon put to different use. Setting up my laptop in the suite, I connected to the hotel's TV system, creating a presentation that would destroy 2 lives in high definition, organizing screenshots chronologically, each cruel message about me displayed in devastating clarity. The photos of them together, the financial records, the fertility clinic documents, all set to autoplay with perfect timing. At exactly 3:47 p.m., I watched through the window as Daniel's car pulled up, saw him open Amanda's door with the courtesy he'd stopped showing me years ago, watched them laugh as they retrieved their bags, completely unaware that their digital footprints had led me straight to their sanctuary, that their weekend of passion was about to become their nightmare. I texted Melissa, who executed her part flawlessly, calling Daniel about an urgent client emergency that required immediate video conference, knowing his laptop was in the car and he'd have to use the room's TV system, and I listened through the door as he reassured Amanda it would only take 5 minutes, heard him curse about work interrupting their time. The moment I heard him connect to the TV, I started the presentation from my phone, watching through the cracked door as his face transformed from confusion to horror, Amanda's gasp echoing through the suite as their messages filled the screen. The cow thinks she's smart. Can't wait to be done with this charade. She's so pathetic, it's almost sad. Hello, Daniel, I said, stepping into the room as a photo of them at the fertility clinic appeared on screen. And Amanda, or should I say the other Mrs. Morrison according to these medical records, watching her face drain of color as she realized the depth of their exposure. Daniel stammered, "Rachel, I can explain." But I cut him off by clicking to the next slide. Financial records showing $47,000 spent on her over 8 months. Explain what exactly? That you spent our retirement savings on your mistress? Or that you were texting her during my father's eulogy? Amanda tried to flee, but I'd anticipated this. I wouldn't run, Amanda. Not when your managing partner, your HR department, and the ethics committee are receiving these same screenshots right now, especially the ones where you discuss confidential client information during your pillow talk. Watching her collapse onto the bed they'd planned to defile. You monitored me, that's illegal, Daniel sputtered, grasping for any defense, but I smiled coldly. Everything was obtained legally from devices I own, accounts in my name, and information freely provided by your very helpful secretary who's been documenting your behavior for months, plus your own cloud backup you forgot existed. The coup de grace came when I revealed the conference call was actually live streaming to our entire social circle, his family, our friends, key colleagues, all watching his humiliation in real time, their shocked comments appearing on my phone as I held it up for him to see, his mother's message simply reading, "How could you?" The divorce papers will be served Monday, I concluded, gathering my laptop with practiced calm. The house is already listed, the accounts are frozen, and everyone you care about has seen exactly who you are, not through my words but through yours. Every cruel message, every lie, every moment you laughed at the woman who loved you. I walked out as they sat in stunned silence, their weekend ruined, their affair exposed, their futures destroyed by their own digital arrogance. 6 months later, I sat in my new apartment overlooking the city, smaller than our suburban house but entirely mine, decorated with colors Daniel always hated, filled with plants he claimed were too much work, and art he never understood, every corner reflecting who I actually was, not who I'd pretended to be for 7 years. The divorce had been swift and brutal for him, my documentation so thorough that his lawyer advised settling immediately, and I walked away with 70% of our assets, the house sale profits, and most importantly, My dignity intact while he moved back with his mother and Amanda, disappeared after being fired for ethics violations. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, the cybersecurity expert who'd helped me gather evidence. Coffee at our usual place? And I smiled at how our usual place had developed over months of friendship that grew into something neither of us expected, built on honesty, mutual respect, and absolutely no secrets. Marcus had seen me at my worst, helped me piece together digital evidence while I cried over each cruel message, held my hand during lawyer meetings, and never once tried to rush anything between us. Understanding that trust needed to be rebuilt slowly, that my heart needed time to heal properly. Our relationship was everything my marriage hadn't been: transparent, kind, and genuinely supportive, where passwords were shared not from suspicion but convenience, where late nights meant actual work with video calls to prove it, where I was celebrated for my intelligence, not mocked for it behind my back. "Ready for dinner with my parents?" he texted, and I laughed, remembering how his mother had pulled me aside last week, saying, "Thank you for making my son believe in love again," not knowing she was describing exactly what Marcus had done for me. The girl who'd been called a cow, who'd been mocked for trying, who'd been systematically destroyed by someone she trusted, was gone, replaced by a woman who knew her worth, demanded respect, and found love that didn't require detective work to verify its authenticity. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposure. It's the beautiful life you build from the ashes of betrayal.